the drooping cobwebs and the collapsed ceiling, that's the key. And if I bold those or I highlight those, now when you take your notes to the table, only bullet point the bolded, most evocative language that you used in your script, because you're going to see those and go, oh, I know where that is. That's in the okay. So as you walk in, you have to duck down, and it's going to feel more natural because you're going to hit those words as you speak, but you're not going to be reading a full sentence. Hey, silly. Anyway, you can be more descriptive to your party. The campaign takes place in a kingdom in ruin. I try to sound competent, but I always sound unsure, thinking about using a script. All the advice around descriptions, think of a location, think of a place, think of a room. What is it? Go through all the senses. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What is the smell? What is the temperature? What is the ground like under your feet? Like, you can kind of go through all those, and you can, just sort of develop I think an intuition over time for, like, okay, here are the two or three things of each, um, two or three types of descriptors that I'm going to use for a space. And I think that it's not a bad thing to write out a script, but write out your script and then go through and either highlight or bold or set aside the most descriptive phrases. So what I mean is that if I wrote a script, I might say, you step into the room and you duck because the cobwebs from the collapsing ceiling are blocking your way through. Like, I might write something like that. But if I go back and look at it, I say, well, actually, the drooping cobwebs and the collapsed ceiling, that's the key. And if I bold those or I highlight those, now when you take your notes to the table, only bullet point the bolded, most evocative language that you used in your script, because you're going to see those and go, oh, I know where that is. That's in the okay. So as you walk in, you have to duck down, and it's going to feel more natural because you're going to hit those words as you speak, but you're not going to be reading a full sentence. And I think that's going to be a lot better. So you can do that sort of prep work with kind of getting fully rounding out, because sometimes we think and we want to write in full sentences, but I can't, as much as I can urge you against, nobody likes to be read to at the table. It's the worst. It's the worst experience when you feel like you're being read to. It's one of the reasons that I am not a fan of modules doing that to people. I think yellow box text has to go. I think that these ideas are old fashioned, and nobody enjoys them. There are better ways. And like I said, just if you can imagine getting yourself, however you want to get to it, use what I described or find your own method of getting to a bulleted list of not sentences, phrases at best. That way you can use those, stray ideas, but just never write anything down that you're going to be tempted to sit there and read. I know it's going to be painful initially, but it's worth it in the long run not to grab hold of that. What do you call it? Don't use that as a flotation device. I'm just maybe I just have I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people like it, but I think that I would much rather put up with a few ums and ahs to get access to what I think is so valuable at the table, which is people sort of speaking from their minds, and that back and forth from the DM as well as players. Sometimes you're going to have things that, you have to reference in your notes and maybe read something specific. I think that's totally fine. That's not at all what I'm talking about. But when it comes to, like, describing spaces and getting into the mindset of a location, I think that kind of stuff, it's worth it's just one of those DM skills you got to practice at, right? You're not going to be perfect at it. None of us are perfect at it. But I think it's one of those skill areas where if you practice it, I think it pays dividends over time. I think if you really, pay attention to what you need to feel comfortable describing stuff and take those types of notes, and then really try to push yourself to be speaking as extemporaneously as you can, not through, like, prepared written words. I think eventually you'll get to a place where you're really, really happy. And you probably can do more without those notes, right? there's a reason that the sort of pro DMs out there can sit down, take a basic concept, and then all of a sudden start painting a picture. It's because they've been practicing it, for decades. They've been practicing for literal years. What does it take to paint a picture of a space? And I bet they didn't get there by writing and memorizing scripts. I think they got there by giving themselves little shortcuts and little tips and little highlighted areas, and then eventually they started to be able to roll those together more seamlessly. That's right, silly. It's the best seat at the table. Who's complaining? I mean, look, I'll play in a game for sure, but I am a DM. That's absolutely that's where I fit. Another piece of good advice I think for new DMs that I need to I think this needs to go onto my list of new video ideas. Run every week. Run or maybe more specifically run as much as you can possibly run games in your schedule in your life, because it's the only way to get better at being a DM. You have to run. Are evil characters bad for the party and the DM? Uh, I I think it depends. So I I don't I've never run an evil party, and I'm not sure that I ever would. Not because I have some sort of like, moral whatever about it or some ideals about the game, but my sensibilities for what could make the game fun come from the types of stories that I grew up with and the types of stories that excite me. And they just tend to be more heroic stories, right? Or at least on the side of making positive change somewhere or the other. I'm not sure that I'm inspired by, so like I'm probably not the dungeon master for it, or at least if I am, I have to figure that out first. I'd have to watch something and go like, yes, that's something I want to do. I'm just not sure that I would have very many ideas. To be honest, like I don't. That's not where my I don't think that's where my inspiration or my aspirations for the game lie. I could be convinced, I think, but maybe in like a one shot or something like that, I could try something out. That'd be an interesting experiment. I should maybe one of my prep streams here. I should give myself the challenge of like, okay, let's make a one shot for evil players. Now I have run one shots and side shots and different encounters before where the party ostensibly plays the bad guy, but it's always hero coded, right? It's always in the context of a heroic story. It's not in the context of like an evil character story. So I feel like it would have to be different to be interesting like that, and I just haven't squared it yet. I know alignments, I just don't really care about them. But or I guess you would argue I probably don't know alignments. I guess I probably don't. Nor do I really care to. But it's fine. More power to you. Go crazy with alignments. I might fall asleep while we talk about them. I do. I'm a fan of goo and ooze. That's true. It depends on the level, right? I think that one of the enduring fun things about D&D, both for players on the leveling up and being excited to build your character up, and then being excited to start at a low level character again. I think similarly for dungeon masters, it's fun to use creatures at low level, and then it's fun to use them when you get to higher levels, and then you after a while you're like, man, I kind of want to just run some goblins again, and feel the excitement of the ooze dropping down in the dungeon and cursing or damaging the simple common sword that the fighter has, and they're like, I think I'm useless in this dungeon now. Like those are fun moments to have. But Steven, I do a form of milestone leveling. Basically, I've tried using experience points before, and they just kind of seemed like some bookkeeping that I didn't really enjoy, and Unless my players are really, really, really into them, which most of them don't really care so far. I am happy to keep using Milestone. So basically, the way I view it, each level should require you playing that number of sessions to get to, or like the reverse of it. So like if everybody starts at level 1, they play a session, now they're level 2. They play 2 sessions at level 2, now they're level 3. 3 sessions at level 3, now they're level 4. And I take that as a base idea, and then I try to build the arcs around that leveling structure. So the problem that the party faces in their first session together is going to be basically taken care of in that first session. And then they level up. And then the next thing they take on is probably going to take 2 sessions to sort of feel resolved. And then the next thing is probably going to take 3. And that way, by the time they get to 7th, 8th, 9th levels, like they're dealing with larger issues that feel appropriate for their time at the table, I guess. Also, this is why this is why my campaigns take ages to reach high levels, because there can be a lot of air in between those level ups. I also give a lot of custom character development and magic items and stuff. I'm pretty liberal with handing that kind of stuff out, so I think that helps a bit too. It gives, and you'd love to see around at a table of bean counters and build optimizers. I mean, some of that stuff too. It's like, is it worth pushing and pulling? It's like, hey guys, like I'm probably just not the DM for players like that, really. I'm really interested in thinking about character development, because I hear what you're saying. I actually, so I really like the base concept of milestone leveling. Like it's very, I think, narratively satisfying to have character development tied to these big moments in a campaign. But I think those micro developments can be really fun too, right? So from session to session, like I think it'd be fun to devise a system that allowed those like smaller things to be honored throughout, not quite experience points, but something that feels a little bit more narrative. Got some notes on that hopefully I'll be able to dig into at some point.